Okay, hi and welcome. And today I got Troy with me, who is a client of mine, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his journey with quitting sugar. And Troy is like Superman, so he's super cool.
I
I
don't
think
know
so
about all
anyway. Oh yeah. So can you just introduce yourself maybe and just talk a little bit about yourself and where you were before you started working with me and you know what the problem actually was, because you weren't really eating sugar, were you?
No, I really was not eating sugar. So my my background is this. I have been addicted to sugar my whole life, carbs. In fact, I used to eat either cereal, and especially in America, I don't know how it is in Sweden or New Zealand,
Yeah.
but especially in America, all the cereals are extremely it's basically just sugar. I mean, for the
Mm.
most part. So sugar for breakfast, sugar for lunch, sugar for dinner, and then sugar for dessert. Some form. In fact, I used to have with my mom. She used to take me every Friday morning to get donuts. That was like our thing. My whole life growing up. And then I used to eat cake for breakfast quite often. Cake
Yeah.
and coffee. This is as a kid. So you can imagine as I got older, how that affected me because I was just so addicted to it as a kid
Mm.
that as I got older and I got less and less active and my metabolism started slowing down, um, it just became a bit of a nightmare. So, um, what happened was last 2017, at the end, I was having so much pain in my back that I couldn't even stand up sometimes without taking painkillers or something. And at the time, I was 36, so I was really worried that I would have to go on like maybe prescription painkillers or something.
Mm.
And I know that, especially here in the U.S., that's an extremely it's very problematic. A lot of people are addicted to prescription painkillers here.
Yeah.
Kind of the doctors hand them out like candy. So um, and then they end up getting hooked on heroin or something because they don't get the prescriptions anymore. It's really bad, actually. So I said, hey, I don't want this to be me. And I was very overweight. I was about 250 pounds, and I'm only 5'10", so that should tell you something. Basically, I had a conversation with my friend on New Year's Eve. No, the next day on New Year's Day, 2018. And he had been doing ketogenic diet for about 2 or 3 years. And he learned about it through um, who was it that he saw? I can't remember. I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast. It's like
Okay.
something like that. How he learned about it. And he taught me, he said, hey man, and I said, well, what am I supposed to, I didn't know anything about it. So, and I thought that you needed vegetables and fruits to be healthy like most people do. So I said, man, I don't really like vegetables or fruits that much. I said, what can I eat? And he's like, you don't have to eat vegetables or fruits at all. I'm like, really? This is the best diet I've ever heard. So yeah, I said, okay. So basically, he told me what to eat, and we sat down and created like a plan about. I travel a lot for work, so what like the restaurants around me and what made sense to eat and things like that. And he didn't focus on fasting or anything. He just said, eat whenever you feel hungry, these types of foods. So I did that. He taught me at the beginning how to track macros and the whole very typical keto thing. So
Mhm.
I did that, and then I'll tell you what, within basically 2 weeks, my back pain went from like most days an 8 out of 10, some days 10 out of 10 when it's really bad, to like 8 out of 10 to like a 3 out of 10 within like 2 weeks. Right.
That's amazing.
And then about 4 weeks into it, it went to like a 1 out of 10 or even a 0 some days. Right. And now it's usually a 0. And once in a while, it gets to like a 1 or a 2. That's usually the worst it gets.
Hmm.
So, and I did that before I lost the weight. So a lot of people say, "Oh, you lose weight, you get all these health benefits." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. This is like before I lost the weight."
Yeah.
I had severe sleep apnea, really bad, to the point where I could not function at all without a CPAP mask. And if I didn't wear that mask, I would be in trouble like the next day. Like I'm talking about passed out in the bathroom at work on the floor, like not able to function that bad.
And
Like
36 years old.
yes, right.
Wow.
So, I mean, I had all kinds of health problems. I had really bad acid reflux, and I think I had GERD. I was pre-diabetic. The list goes on. Actually, I have a whole list, but that's the basics, right? and also addicted to sugar and carbs and all these types of terrible food, processed foods and everything. And I never used to cook for myself ever. I always ordered food, the whole thing.
Of course.
Either I went out or I had it delivered, one of the two, right? And I was spending a lot of money, like pretty much for no reason. Now that I look back on it, but so anyway, so saying all that, I ended up losing since then 100 pounds, and I would say 90 some of it was before I exercised at all. So really, I don't even contribute any of it to the exercise whatsoever, to be honest with you. And I've just started really lifting weights and trying to run and here and there, but really trying to build some muscle. So anyway, and I ended up losing 100 pounds, and my scale told me I was 45% body fat, and the same scale now is telling me 17 since last year. So it's quite a transformation. So why did I hire you? Well, I hired you because I noticed myself getting into patterns of binge eating on keto junk food. And the same patterns I would have had before I was keto on regular junk food, I was having that on keto junk food. And the first year or so of keto, I wasn't doing that. Like I would have like keto desserts here or there, but it wasn't a big deal, or maybe like a bulletproof bar or something like that here or there, not all the time. But I noticed myself getting into a pattern where it was like after every dinner or after every meal, I wanted something sweet, whether it was some kind of keto bar or I would go make the dessert myself. And then I thought, hey, I saw myself not really losing any weight after a while and not losing any body fat. And I said, this cannot be good for what I'm trying to do. Not that this stuff was terrible for me, technically. It's just that it was causing me to overeat, basically.
Yeah.
And that can't be good for if you're trying to lose body fat, is overeating every day. So I said, okay, well, I got to do something about it. So I saw you on a video with Bart. It was the live stream, and you were talking about sugar addiction and how to beat sugar addiction. So I think I contacted you and we had an initial consultation.
Yeah.
And I was convinced that you knew what you were doing in the consultation. So basically, so I think it was probably a bit of a feeling out for both of us, but like anything, because I didn't know you from anybody. I just saw you on a YouTube video, right? So, and this was maybe in April, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's now August, but for those who don't know that. So, basically, I guess we can go into more detail, but since then, I would say my results are night and day from where I even was in April when it comes to food addiction. Plus, I can show you, I have the data on my body fat percentage, in the last few months, and it's definitely gone down when I was stalled for a while.
Yoo-hoo.
So, and I haven't really dieted and like what I mean is I haven't really changed much except for avoiding foods that are making me overeat for the most part. So, yeah, so that's a long intro, I understand, but that's a little bit.
That's all good. Yeah. So did you mostly think that it was a problem that you were binge eating, that you still had this behavior and that you weren't in control? Or was it more a frustration with not losing the last bit of body fat that you wanted to get rid of? What was it that actually drove you to seek help? Because often we're trying a lot of things and just keep trying and then failing and can't be bothered. Just wondering what pushed you over the edge there, because you already had tremendous results from just being keto, in my opinion anyway.
Sure. So, well, it was really me learning more and more about dopamine. And I think it was a perfect storm of my research about dopamine and because I had been researching this whole no fap movement, like no pornography, it's abstaining from all those things because of the dopamine effects and all those types of things, right? So I had been researching that already. And then when you were talking about the sweet addictions and all that, I was like, oh, it's kind of the same thing. It's just, it's working on this in your brain, the same way for this reward system. So I just put it together. And actually, I think it came from honestly, the research on the no fap movement. Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So what did you actually expect to achieve by hiring a coach? Did you think it would be easy? Was it kind of what you expected, or?
Well, I'm a professional coach for a living. That's
Yeah.
what I do. So, and I work at typically in the software industry, but a lot of the skills about people coaching, you can almost coach anything. Like
Mm.
if
Yeah.
you know how to coach people. So, and I coach people all the time, and I tend to get some good results at work. So I thought, hey, it would be cool to have someone doing this for me. And a lot of times it's like when people get really resistant to coaching because they think, oh, I don't need a coach. I know what I'm doing, or I can do it
Mhm.
myself or whatever. But thing is, you can know what you're doing. Like I had all those results, yet I still was stuck mentally, and it's something I couldn't see past, or I couldn't figure out how to get to the next level. And part of coaching is unlocking what's already in that person. It's not like you it's not like you said something magical and then I just became automatically better, right? It's more about like meeting the person where they're at, right? So meeting them where they're at, where their current knowledge level is, where their current either there's a lot of things to look at. For example, let me move my chair a little bit. One second.
That's fine.
Okay. So, for example, we have to, I think I'm going to make a video about this actually. We have to basically integrate many aspects of life as a coach. And I think that you have done that now that I look back on what you were doing. I don't even know if you're doing it intentionally. I don't know. You can tell me. But the many aspects, what I'm talking about are, we have first part, which is our internal self when it comes to our own knowledge and our own motivations and happiness and focus and these types of things, right? And then we have our communal level, internal. So for example, my relationship with my wife is critical to be able to be successful at something like this, right? Or so if you're, for example, if you're listening to this and you're a teenager, you live with your parents, even your relationship with your parents, that is also gonna could potentially make or break the success of something like this, right? And or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever or husband, wife, whatever the situation is. um, and the third part that I think has to be integrated is the what to measure, what to track, the observations as well. So for example, like you had me do a lot of observations on my own thoughts, right? So which was very beneficial. And the fourth part to integrate, this is 4 parts, is the societal aspect. So how do we deal with situations where we're in public, or when we're out to dinner with other people, or when we're to get together with my family who's like totally, a lot of people are sugar addicted and they have desserts constantly, right? These types of things. When my wife constantly wants desserts or keto desserts, and how do I handle that? And maybe for her it's not a problem, right? Maybe she just doesn't have a problem. She just likes eating dessert or keto desserts. Okay. But for me, it's a problem. So how do I handle that? So it's kind of integrating like personal self, relationships, tangible metrics, tangible things to measure, and then more of a systemic look at things, or things outside influences, right?
Yeah.
So I think you did a really good job. Like I said, I don't even know if you like it might be conscious or unconscious, but you did a good job at kind of focusing on all those areas at different times in the coaching. So I'll let you keep going.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what's coming up. Usually, when we stop eating sugar or when we take something away, all the other things are just going to bubble up to the surface. So
Right.
it's going to be very easy to just see where the problem areas are. And those were, you mentioned some of them, but I also think you, in the beginning, I, I think you mentioned that people pleasing and also
Yes.
confidence that
Yeah.
were part of it. And I don't know, how has it gone with that? Because we haven't actively been working on that. But from my experience, I think when you know that you're in control of your cravings and that you can actually handle that, your confidence is just going through the roof, because you know that if I can do that, I can do bloody anything, at least for
Yeah.
me.
So what's amazing is, and I think tying this back to how I got into this in the first place with the whole nofap thing, is that this actually helped me be better at that as well. Like basically, I feel like anything that's pulling me that I feel like I can't control, I feel like I'm in control more so. And now I'm to the point where I feel like I can control what I eat, when I eat, how much I eat for the most part, and um, also, what I view when it comes to, like I said, that whole NoFap thing. So basically, it's like I no longer, I've gotten to the point where I no longer even want most sweets. Like I would be lying if I told you I didn't have cravings sometimes. Okay, because I do.
Sure.
Everyone's going to. But for example, the last 2 days I had cravings. It's almost like it could be a very small thing. It might not be a strong craving. It'll just be like a thought, right?
Mm.
It'll be so. Yesterday I was driving to the grocery store, and there's these one of the products that I got in trouble with, I think, that really got me addicted to keto junk food is these Quest protein cookies. And particularly the chocolate chip ones, because there's a guy I really, really respect. His name is Dom D'Agostino, and he has a blog called Keto Nutrition, and where he blogs about different keto topics. And last year he blogged about these cookies, and he said, hey, for people that like cookies, I did this blood testing on these cookies, and you could see how they don't really raise your blood sugar, and they don't impact your ketone levels and all that. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome, right? This was towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
So I said, let me go try these cookies, because this is somebody I really respect, right? Now, maybe he's being paid, I don't know. But I went and I bought the cookie, and the cookie was so damn good, the chocolate chip one, that I immediately ate 3 of them. Okay. Like I said, I just have to buy 2 more. Like I can't not have more of this cookie, right? And who cares? Because it's keto friendly, right? And Dom D'Agostino has blessed this. So basically, that was like the beginning of, I actually think those cookies were the beginning of my binge eating keto. So that's how I got into it. So I'm not blaming Dom really, because for him, it's probably no big deal to have one of those cookies. Right? But for someone that has sugar problems or sweet problems or these dopamine issues, something like that is a big trigger. So I don't know if I answered the question, but I forget what the question was.
Yeah, no, that was fine.
Okay.
I think that's the problem, that physiologically is probably nothing wrong with eating those cookies, and
Right.
you're probably not going to have a problem from eating them, but it's just the reinforcing that neural pathway that will trigger you to eat more and more and more, and then you're back into the old habits just with new foods, basically. So whereas
Yeah.
the
What
cookies are
I
not
love.
awful.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, whereas the
Oh,
cookies are
sorry.
not awful in themselves. They're
Right.
fine if you want to, maintain a ketogenic diet and you need a treat. So there's nothing wrong with it, but
Yeah.
the way that you and I probably would handle them is probably not ideal.
Yeah, yeah. So now I remember now. So I
Yeah,
was going to the grocery store, and my brain said, "Oh, because right in front of the grocery store is the store that sells these cookies, right?"
right.
So like right before you pull into that parking lot, there's another parking lot. We have the store called a Wawa here in the Northeast, and they sell like all kinds of foods like this. So basically, my brain said, "Oh, you should go get a Quest cookie," right?
Hmm.
And then I thought about it for a second. And then I thought, like, wait a minute, why do I want a Quest cookie? Like, it was like a real like question. This happened literally yesterday, right? Like, I had to. And now I've been doing this now since April for the most part, and working with you, but still, like, my brain is basically trying to trick me into eating something I actually don't want to eat. Like, there may be a moment when I want to eat it because I might have a craving, but when I step back, when I'm not having the craving, do I want to eat that cookie? No, I do not, right? Because it's one, it's just processed junk food. 2, it's not, it basically is not going to do anything for me whatsoever when it comes to my goals, right?
Yeah.
So it's only in the moment I want it. So the ability to step back and then say, oh, brain, like, you're kind of funny. Like, you almost got me, but try again next time. It's almost like a joke sometimes when you succeed at it. And then it happened again today, the next day. Like I had dinner, I finished dinner. It was an awesome dinner. And my brain said, oh, like, you should, Now, the thing is I don't have anything sweet at all in the house at this point, right? So I would have to go out and get something, which is, for me, would be like, if I went out of the house to get something sweet, I would be in a bad state at this point, because I can control my cravings like pretty good. So and then I said, oh, brain's trying to trick me again. So I started texting my wife because she asked me, how do you do this? How do you, she has a hard time with sweets,
Mm.
still. But it's keto sweets, right, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
But she has a hard time with it. So she asked me, how do I do it? So now she's like, man, you must be like a Superman or something, or like you must have some, like, I'm so great at this. And I'm like, no, she's like, you don't have cravings? I'm like, no, I have them all the time, right? So I started, now every time I have a craving, I'm just like texting her if she's at work. Oh, I crave the Quest cookie. And that's it. Like, and I go the laugh, emoji. So.
But that's a good idea actually, because then you are even more aware of your cravings and you kind of acknowledge that they're there and you're just telling someone else. And by doing that activity, you kind of almost, rather than reacting to the craving, you have another behavior, which is a third one, I guess, that you just let your wife know. So you
Right.
can actually do this with, I know some people have been doing they have like a cravings jar of some kind, and every time they have a craving, they have to sit with a craving for 5-10 minutes, and then they put a bead in that jar, and that
Mm.
just gives you something else to do, and that can be quite powerful in terms of building a new pathway and do it that way.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting how you do that. I know that you're already in control of your cravings for the most part, but
Yeah.
yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
So what did you think was the hardest bit?
Since we started working together,
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part was there was one day since April where I really actually gave in to a craving. So that's not bad considering it's been May, June, July, like, basically 4 or 5 months or something
Yeah,
like that. So one day out of 4 or 5 months is not so bad, right? So,
it's quite
so
remarkable.
okay. And I gave in and I was like, I think I contacted you right away and I said, can we have a call? So, because I was like trying to deal with the fact that I had been so successful for so long, yet I still failed, right?
Mm,
So, and I thought, in my head, I thought I was like totally out of the woods, totally in control of everything, no problem. And then one day it like, I gave into this craving, and for the people listening, um, it literally was a bulletproof bar, which might not sound like a big deal, but for me it is because I didn't want to eat that bar, and
mm,
you know what I mean, like before I had the craving. So that's the difference. So it's something that's pulling me to do something that I don't want to do
yeah.
outside of that moment. So we had a good conversation, and you did the coaching thing,
What
and
did you
since
think when I was like, yes, I'm glad that you did it?
I don't know. I mean, it's a learning lesson because eventually I was going to probably fail. So, I mean, it's unrealistic to think that like until I die, I'll never have something, right? I mean, also, my strategy is this, at this point, I will set a day in the future where I will tell myself on that day, you can eat whatever you want, right?
Hmm,
Like, I actually don't deny myself anything,
good.
honestly. So I will pick a day, like my anniversary is coming up next week, in a week
Mhm.
and a half. So we're gonna go away for my anniversary, and I'm saying when I'm away, I'll just allow myself to like actually have real sugar for like first time in a long time, right?
Mm,
But that is totally planned, and it's for a special occasion, which is what I think. Honestly, I think that's what sugar and those types of foods are for. Like, I think that's the benefit of them, or if there is a benefit, meaning if you're having a birthday party, for example, your anniversary, right? Like sugar boosts your serotonin, and it kind of lifts the spirits almost like the whole group.
mhm.
So to me, I can see some benefit in it, like almost like as a drug, honestly, in that context,
Yeah,
right? Like as a group drug for the most part.
yeah,
But the problem is when you consume it on a daily basis or a regular basis, right? So, and it's really hard for a lot of people to not consume it. It just so happens that I've been able to break my sugar addiction for the most part, meaning I don't really even crave sugar that much. It's more of like these sweeteners. Um,
yeah,
so I don't know why that is, but maybe because I was so strict on keto for so long that first year that the whole idea of sugar, I just view it as a poison.
yeah.
And I didn't view the sweeteners as a poison. But now that I look back on it, I was consuming a lot of sugar alcohols during my binging time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my gut, like basically any kind of bowel issues or gut is much more stable and it's much better all the time. And, you know, um, uh,
Excuse me.
eating those. Go ahead. Okay.
Someone is knocking on the door. Can we just have a quick break and I will
Yes.
go and see what they want? I'll have to
Okay.
cut
No
that out
problem.
later.
We were talking about sugar alcohols.
There you go.
So
Yes.
yeah, so I was saying after cutting out sugar alcohols, I would say my stomach thanks me, and my intestinal tract and anything related to my gut honestly is much better. And I eat a largely probably 90%, 85 to 90% ish carnivore diet anyway.
Mm.
So I don't really consume that much fiber. In fact, when I do consume a lot of fiber, I tend to feel worse. So, so anyway, so I think maybe that's just how the way I'm optimized right now. So the sugar alcohols are like you eat them, and then like half an hour later, you're like, oh my god, like I got to deal with this problems, and all that. So
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's good.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay. So what have you noticed anything else in your life changing that you didn't really think about? Some other results that you had from quitting sugar or getting the coaching that you didn't expect?
Yes, I would say my confidence level has increased since then,
Right.
and I think it's impacted my work performance. Um, so I feel more confident. In fact, when I started conquering every day the no sweeteners thing, like I was saying day one, day two, day three, at the beginning. And that actually helped me because every day was like a victory. Every day I was like winning again, and every day that I won was a confidence builder.
Yeah.
So then I started doing other things like, well, I was already doing the NoFap thing. So that was good. And then I started taking like cold showers every day. And then that was like a win, So it was like these wins just kind of piling up on each other every day. And I was building all this confidence. And so, yeah, I think that helped me at work because, being a coach and being a consultant, you have to work with a lot of people. You have to speak very confidently in front of people. And I actually think that benefited me, and which was a benefit I was not expecting. But
Cool.
yeah.
It's a welcome one.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I remember a period there, it might have been after a month and a half, maybe 2 months. I think you came back to me 3 or 4 sessions and you were like, I don't recognize myself. I'm just really irritable. I'm picking a fight with my wife. And every session it was the same thing. And I was like, I know what's going on here. And I know it's because, you basically low dopamine and nothing feels like it's worth doing anymore because you've removed
Mhm.
everything that gives you that extra dopamine hit. And it was just going on week after week, and I was like, every time I was just like crossing my fingers, like maybe he's come right this time, and then no shit, okay, maybe next time. I hope he's not going to give up because of it, because it can feel very, very real and very depressing to be there when you feel like, okay, is this what it's going to be like the rest of my life if I'm not doing
Right.
anything that triggers my dopamine? So how did you deal with that? What
Well, that was very
success?
difficult. I
Yeah.
would say it was very difficult. And normally, my mood is pretty stable.
Mm.
Um, and but my mood was noticeably less. It was more irritable, like you said. I wasn't depressed, but I was just kind of down most days
Mm.
and a little unmotivated, which is the opposite of how I've been on keto. It's usually more motivated. So, yeah. So, how did I get through it? Well, we had our coaching sessions, which obviously helped. But time. I mean, obviously, and it just so happened that now that you brought it up, I totally forgot about that actually because I feel
That's good.
but yeah, I mean, the reason why I didn't give up is because I don't like the fact, in life, we can't control a lot of things that happen to us, right?
Mm.
But we should be able to control what we put in our mouth. That's my thing.
Yeah, we
We
should.
can't even control that. We're in bad shape. So, so I said, I'm not going to, when you explained to me about the dopamine and everything, I said, okay, I'm just going to write it out because I don't want to go back to being out of control again. So, I took that pretty seriously. I'm like, I'm not going to let these plants control me, So, so yes, sugar, alcohols, and sugar, and all these sweeteners things, they all come from plants. So, I said, man, these things are addictive. Most drugs as well. Now that I think about it. But yes, so I didn't want to be controlled by a plant, so I stuck through it, and I came out of it, and now I feel like my normal self again. But it did take a few weeks. That is true.
Mm. Because that's, I think, where most people that don't get coaching, that's if they got that far, that's where it's going to be, just like a wall in front of you because you have no support. So whether that is from a coach or maybe a group of people that just goes together and do it together, everything is helpful. But I think during that part, most people actually need support of some kind. But
Right.
because it's not a nice feeling, but just knowing that, for those of you who are listening now, just knowing that you will have to go through that river of misery or whatever you want to call it until you come out on the other side, and then you will feel fantastic. But just know that
So
that's going to be there.
there's a quote that I love. It's actually, I got it from this book, 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. It's a pretty famous book now
Yeah.
at this point, but the quote is that I'm probably going to butcher it, and it's not his quote. He's quoting someone else, but
Yeah.
that no tree can grow to heaven without its roots first growing to hell or growing deeper into hell. So I just take that as a personal kind of mantra, actually. I started listening to that book right around this time, maybe late April or early May or something like that. So it was right around like when we were really getting into it pretty heavy. And I said, anytime I'm dealing with that, it's like, okay, we have to go through the suffering to get to heaven or get to what we're trying to accomplish, right? Because nothing worthwhile comes easy. There's another chapter in that book which he talks about do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And it's similar concept. So it's like, what is meaningful? What am I trying to accomplish? Well, full control. What's expedient? Giving into a quest bar. Okay. So, even just putting it in that perspective, it's like, okay, I wish I had that like tattoo, like I can see it all the time, that quote, just to remind myself, but I do try to remind myself when I'm dealing with those cravings. There's like two parts to it. I think when I'm doing really well is when I'm doing things like I notice that I'm having a craving and kind of laugh it off because I see my brain tricking me.
Yeah.
I'm not doing well, which was maybe at that time when I ended up giving in that one time, is when I'm really fighting the craving. And you have taught me the difference between fighting and observation. And fighting it.
And you were also justifying it by being good the day before, not eating the chocolate cake. I remember that. So
Yes.
be aware of that as well. We want to give yourself a little fail. Your brain couldn't get to the big fail, so it will talk you into a little fail by justifying it that you were so good yesterday, so this won't matter.
Yeah, so the story she's talking about is I had my whole family was over. It was someone's birthday, and it was my mom's birthday actually. And literally my favorite cake in the planet was okay. And I'm a big cake person, big time, and it's my favorite cake, by the way, was there. Okay, so not only do I love cake, it's my favorite one. So everyone's eating it, and normally, honestly, don't crave sugar that much. Like I told you that I'm normally doesn't really tempt me that much, right? But this one was tempting me big time. Like, in fact, it was probably the worst craving I've ever had in my whole life. I would say that that's true. Like I get to the point where I was fighting it though. That was the difference, is that I wasn't observing and I wasn't doing what you taught me in the coaching. I was trying to fight it off. And it was winning. Like I actually didn't give into it, but it felt like it was winning, because it wasn't going away, the craving. And the more I was fighting it, the more angry I got at a lot of things. I was getting angry because I'm like, why can't I just have a piece of cake? Everyone else is having it. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? This, that. And the second part is, then I'm getting angry because I'm craving the cake. And then I'm getting mad at myself. why are you craving the cake? You shouldn't be craving these things. This is poison. This is junk. Who cares, right? So they're trying to rationalize these things. And while I'm doing that, the craving is just getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? To the point where I actually got really emotional and like almost started to cry. Like that's how emotional I was getting at this stupid piece of cake. So what Pim's talking about is I did not give in to the cake, and I got through that day. The next day, my brain said, oh, you did a really good job yesterday. Why don't you have a bulletproof bar? And I said, you know what? Bulletproof bar sounds like a good compromise. So then I ate the bulletproof bar, and I was like, I actually ate 2 of them. And then I thought like, oh man, I just got tricked, didn't I? Like, you know, and I got really down that day. Like, and then I contacted you. So that was how it happened. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. It still makes me laugh.
Well,
You know,
I'm
it's a
glad
piece of
my
cake.
misery is funny. Yeah.
It's so much drama over a piece of cake. Because in all honesty, you can get this cake whenever you want to. If you just, you know, if you decide to eat the whole cake tomorrow, you can go and get it. It's not a
Right.
problem.
Right.
But in that moment, you were just so caught up in this that it was just a big battle. And I mean, I've been there, believe me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm laughing, because we're just making it such a huge deal when it doesn't really have to be such a huge deal. But it's just how it goes.
I agree. Well, I'm glad you can get some enjoyment out of my
Yeah,
misery.
I am.
Okay. All right.
So before you quit sugar, or before we started working together, did you ever think that you would be able to get rid of the cravings, or to a level where you're not really, you kind of have the craving as a thought, but you don't really feel like you have to react to it? Did you ever think that was possible?
No, in fact, I'll be honest with you. I created this like at the beginning of the year. I came up with this idea for this framework, which was basically a framework of 4 principles to live by, where you wouldn't have to count macros, you wouldn't have to worry about what hardcore diet you were following, whether it's carnivore or keto or anything like that, right? If you just live by these principles, like you would be successful. So I came up with this idea, and then I said, okay, well, I got to test out on myself. And the first principle is to avoid negatively addicting foods and things that cause a negatively addicting dopamine response. What I mean by that is, you know, things that are going to cause this dopamine response and that are going to be contrary to what you're trying to achieve, basically, right? So if you do something good that has dopamine response, obviously keep doing that,
Sure.
right? So that's where the whole no-fap thing comes in. That's where the whole sweeteners and sugar and the whole thing comes in, right? But even when I made that back in January, when I first like made that first principle, I always thought, oh, well, that means that, like, you know, a couple times a week I'll have a sweetener, because I was having it every day, right? So when I first made that, my ultimate like goal was to get that down to like 1 or 2 times a week. Oh, I'll just do it on the weekends, right? That kind of like, and I'm talking about keto sweets. I'm not talking about sugar. Right? Like, and then, so I never thought that I would be able to go like weeks and months without it. And now looking back on it, it's like, oh, I can do this as long as I want now. And then I can have sugar.
That gives me goosebumps when you say that.
Yeah,
That's
because it's
so
like,
cool.
yeah, I'll pick a day, a month or 2 months or whatever, and I'll say that day I can have actual sugar. The rest of the days, I don't have to have any of this crap, right? It's like, and I don't even need that day, but it's not like we have to live like, you know, like maybe some people do. Maybe some people just cannot eat sugar, period. Maybe. For me, I can eat it for a day or even on a weekend if I'm celebrating something, and I can go right back to not eating it. For me, but I cannot do that with the sweeteners. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Like for me, my brain, I don't know why it works that way, but that's how I work. Yeah.
We're all different. And with time, I think that would probably disappear as well.
Okay.
But it's a new thing for you right now. Might take 10 years, might take 2 years. Who knows? Might just take a year. But I think it's going to get better.
And also, on top of that, when you go a long period of time without having any sweeteners, and then you actually have like not something artificial, like meaning if you actually have real sugar, right? Like you taste the difference between that and like the fake stuff. And then you're like, why am I eating this fake crap like all the time? You know, it's like, you might as well just not eat it and then eat the real thing, like, you know, once in a while. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's the strategy that but I was not able to do that before I started working with you. So
Whew, win.
yeah.
So do you think that anyone could actually be successful doing this? Or do you think there are people that couldn't do this?
Well, I think you can only do it if you can break your. I don't know. I mean, for me, if I would have started working with you day one when I started keto, like a year and a half ago or a little
Hmm.
more now, I honestly don't know what would have happened. I might have been able to do the same thing, but I might have needed that breaking the sugar thing first for me.
Hmm.
I don't know that answer. I'm just guessing. Do I think anyone could do it? I think yes. I don't know. There's no difference between me and anybody else. Just a matter of, um, I think, kind of integrating the different aspects of your life is important
Yeah.
for the decisions, right? So, and I'll say one thing. So, for me, when I had tried to lose weight, right now I know it's kind of like who cares about losing weight? You want to get healthy and you'll lose body fat, right? So, um, but anyway, so when I had tried to lose weight many times in my life, and sometimes I had maybe lost 10 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever, right? And then I would gain like more back, within a matter of months. So, and when I was 15, I was 150 pounds, and today I'm 150 pounds. So I haven't been this in 23 years, right? So that gives you an example. But anyway, so the thing I always tried though was willpower, right? I thought like, oh,
Mm.
I just have the willpower and the discipline. I can just go to the gym every day and you'll be successful, right? And part of it was, yes, I didn't really know how to eat. I was just eating how I was being told what you're supposed to eat. But I really didn't like vegetables that much. So like I couldn't just eat salads all day. That wasn't sustainable for me, that
Yeah.
type of dieting, right? So I would have to eat some because I was carb addicted, obviously. So I'd have to eat some carbs, and I was able to limit the like candy bars and ice creams and stuff like that. But I was still eating mashed potatoes and things like that and meats and all that. But anyway, so and I noticed I would do pretty good. Something would happen, and then I would fail, and then gain more weight, right, over and over and over again in this cycle. And it wasn't until I found something that worked for me, which is the whole low carb thing, right? Low carb, high fat, high protein type of way of eating. For me, that works, right?
Yeah.
Maybe for everyone, I don't know, but I can't speak for everybody. But for me, it works, and I would imagine a lot of people it work for. So I found that way, and then I already had the willpower. I wanted it, and it wasn't until I really sat down with my wife because at the time my wife was the only one who cooked, and this was only a year and a half ago. Now I cook about 90% of the time, so it's like
She's like,
actually.
brilliant.
Yeah, and I look forward to it because I try new recipes and I always try to do new things like that. So what's funny is I really really enjoy cooking for people now. Like I started inviting people over, like, oh, come over and I'll cook for you. I'll try something. So anyway, so it wasn't until I had that relationship with my wife where we sat down and I had her support, and then I had that coaching, kind of coaching with my friend when we looked at all the restaurants and we looked at how to track at that time. When I put all that together, it was really successful. So I think if you come at a problem with that perspective, that you can't just, I call it reductionism. You can't just reduce things to one way of solving a problem. You really have to take like all four. Um, then I think anybody can be successful if you can get all four kind of ducks in a row, and all four meaning your internal self, your community, whether that's your significant other, your parents, whatever, what tangible things you can measure, and then the whole systemic thing, whether that's the system around you, whether that's restaurants, grocery stores, doctors, you name it, right?
Yeah.
So there's government. There's a lot of parts of the system. Depends on how big you want to scale. So anyway, so yes, long way of saying I think anybody can do it. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. But it's not super easy though. I mean, it wasn't easy for me, like I said, and I still have cravings. I had them yesterday and today. It just wasn't strong because immediately I recognized it within 10 seconds what was happening.
Mm.
Or working with you, that I would have just been fighting it,
Yeah.
honestly. So
But that's the thing, that
yeah,
we can't get rid of the cravings. The cravings might be there for the rest of your life to some degree or another, but they're not
right,
going to be very strong. They're more going to be as a thought that appears that oh, I should go and have that. And then you're like, whoa, why?
Right.
So what you have absolutely got now is the awareness. You're noticing everything that is going on about the cravings, what you're thinking, and how irrational it is. And that's pretty
Hmm.
much all you need to do. That's all the tools in that department that you need to actually never have sugar again unless you want to.
Love it. Or sweeteners, period. Not
Or
just sugar.
that, yeah, or
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Never sweetness again. Sugar when you want to.
Yeah, and then some people say, "Oh, what about fruit?" I'm like, I never liked fruit in the first place, so I don't even miss it. Like that, I'm like, fruit. Why would I? This is just an addict. Like, basically, growing up, I never liked fruit. I never liked vegetables. I pretty much only liked meat and carbs, right, for the most part.
Mm,
Okay, so now I just cut the carbs out, and I just get to eat more meat and eggs and
yeah,
cheese sometimes and things like that. And it's like, okay, I'm good. I don't need the fruit. I don't need any of this stuff. So, for someone like me, it's a perfect way of eating, like
yeah,
a carnivorous diet, you know. Anyway, it's just
yeah. But when it comes to diet, I mean, I'm having my opinion about what sort of diet is the optimal diet. But
mhm,
regardless of what anyone wants to eat, if you have a plan for what your allowed foods are, what foods you have on your eating plan, and fruit is not on that eating plan, which I don't think it should be if you have a problem with sugar cravings, because that's probably
sure,
not going to help. But
right,
just assuming that the fruit is not on there, you just treat it like any other sugary thing that you plan for it, and then you have fruit
yeah,
whenever you want to. So, and that goes for anything. So whether that's sweet or not, if I'm going to have mashed potatoes, for example, then I
mm,
am going to have to plan for that because that's not on my normal eating plan. So this
right,
can go for exactly everything
yeah,
that is not on your plan.
great
So,
point.
so it
Totally
doesn't
agree.
matter. Yeah, cool. I like when
Okay.
you agree with me.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes when I was coaching you, I could just feel like I was almost losing you because I could see like you're like, she's mad. And the way you were looking at me were just like, what the hell is going on here? But
Well,
you,
something about me is I am someone who likes to challenge things. Like, I have to understand the reason behind something, right?
yeah,
Like, if I don't understand the reason behind it, I cannot get, like, when I first started, somebody said, "Oh, follow these macros," and I could just do it. But quickly, I had to learn quickly why
yeah,
that was working, right? So maybe when you were telling me things, it wasn't personal. It's just how I process
that's all right.
things. Yeah, that's
I'm very, very similar. I
yeah,
need to understand. So I wouldn't tell you to go and do all these exercises that I had you doing just for the sake of doing the exercises if I didn't understand how they work, like psychologically, how they reinforce the right sort of, neural pathways, or maybe just as a tool to increase your awareness. Because when you were, I hope that you have filled it in. When you were, when you were giving into your craving, I sent you a
mhm,
worksheet after that I want you to fill in to pretty
yeah,
much break it down and analyze what happened so that the next time you know exactly what happened, and
hmm,
that way you can prevent it. Because it might happen
yes,
again, but that then you might be able to catch yourself before you're going too far. And then
right.
that is win. It's another win. Because then you
That's a great
just
point.
learn something from it and you can just take that with you and put that in your portfolio of not eating sugar skills.
That's great. And one other side benefit of this kind of coaching, since we started working together, is
Hmm.
this happened yesterday. I well, I was at the grocery store, and when I see the food now, like, my wife and I were walking down the grocery store, and my wife's the best, by the way, but, like, she will always say something. She'll say, like, "Oh, look at those Oreos," right? Or "Look at that," or "Look at that," right? Like, she's just making a comment because, like, she just might be craving that or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Not craving, but just saying, "Oh, it'd be nice to have Oreos," or "Look at that," or "Look at that," right?
Hmm.
And what's weird is, and it's not just Oreos, it's even anything sweet, really, right? I started. It's almost like I look at it like, oh, that's gross. Like, I started seeing. It's almost like it's kind of gross. A lot of that foods, particularly like the processed sugar foods.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I just, this is pure curiosity. This wasn't a craving. Yesterday I had some friends over and I made them some burgers and things like that, and I didn't have any bread, of course, but and I gave them some potato chips because they're just normal, standard American diet eaters. So, and I said, I haven't had a potato chip probably since started keto maybe. So maybe, I don't know, over a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. And I used to eat them all the time, by the way. So I said, I wonder what this tastes like. So I had a bite of a potato chip, and this is it wasn't like I was going to eat more than one. I just wanted to taste it. I honestly, this is true. I honestly thought it tasted disgusting.
Mm,
Like it actually, what it tasted like to me was like a real rancid
yeah.
oil. Like if
Yeah.
you ever have like, you ever cook something by accident and like an oxidized oil rancid, like it's been sitting too long or something, right? I mean, I was like, this is gross. Like it tasted disgusting. And I used to eat this same brand of chips like all the time growing up. So something about, and maybe it's a combination of not consuming vegetable oils a lot because I don't
Mm,
anymore. Obviously that's something I've been staying away from since I've been on keto largely. But I actually think my taste buds have changed by doing the whole no sweeteners thing. Because I feel like my sense of taste is, it's just a weird anecdote, but I feel like it's enhanced in a way. And I never used to be able to eat, for example, asparagus or bok choy, I don't eat that many vegetables, but last week I had a soup with bok choy in it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. I would have never said that before. So maybe just eliminating all of the sweeteners like has opened my palate up to other foods
mm.
which aren't sweet. I don't know, but could be.
That's very,
But
very likely. Yeah.
side benefit, yeah, and the chips tasted absolutely disgusting.
Well, that's a good thing because now you definitely won't want to eat them.
No, I didn't even want to. I was literally just
Yeah.
curious. And then I said, oh my God, it tastes awful. It tastes
But
like
next
ranch.
time you're not even going to be curious. Just going
Oh,
to be
no,
like, "Ah,
not at
don't like
all.
them."
Yeah. Yeah. That's not that potatoes would taste like that. It's just whatever oil they
Yeah.
fried it. Disgusting. Yeah. It's
I
gross.
pretty much have the same thing. Um, Sometimes I would eat maybe, flavored ones, like
Hmm.
I don't even know what I haven't so rarely, maybe once a year, because
Right.
I'm more for sweets. I want the
Yeah.
sugar. I'm not so much for them. It's more if you go somewhere and someone puts a bowl in front of you, I've been eating it, but now I probably won't. But that is one thing with the lightly salted ones. I like the salt, but
Hmm.
then I can taste the oil, and that it's exactly what you say. It tastes very rancid, and it's actually horrible. I'm thinking, oh my
It's
god,
disgusting.
people are just eating this. And when you have all the spices on, the ones that I actually do like, you have
Hmm.
the same oil underneath. It's just that it's disguised by all these spices, so I don't feel it. And it's just like, why am I doing that to myself? It's clearly not good for my body.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's like,
Anyway,
it's like, for those who've seen The Matrix, it's like seeing the code in the Matrix. Like when you see the food in the grocery store, it's like you just start seeing the lines and like all the junk and the poison. Like, oh, 99% of the store is basically just not food. Like there's
yeah,
basically, I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but in the US, all of the actual food is on the outside of the store.
yeah, same.
Produce and like, well, particularly meats, seafood, produce. That's all on the outside, and
Yeah,
dairy. Everything else is on the inside, and it's just
yeah,
garbage
yeah.
for the most part. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's it's good. Just walk around in a square until you get to the checkout, and you just have whether you use fruits and veg, meat, some dairy, cheese, eggs, and then
Right.
you're done.
Pretty much. The only
Yeah,
reason I even go in those middles is for like seasonings, like
yeah,
spices or something. That's about it.
that's
Yeah.
good. I was thinking is there something yeah, like laundry powder and that sort of thing maybe.
Oh yeah.
But that's not food.
Right.
Yeah. So that was pretty much all the questions I had for you. Is there anything else you feel like you want to add? Something that you think people should know about, or
Well, I highly recommend your coaching. So if people are trying to get over either it's sugar, either it's sweeteners, or maybe some other addiction, because I think what you're doing is more about addictions, period. It's just that your background is more about sugar.
yeah,
But I think the concepts that you're teaching and coaching as well, they could be applied to many other things in life that are addictive. So I highly recommend Pim. Have an initial consultation with her. See if you both kind of are on the same page, like we did. We first did. And honestly, it's a it's a small price to pay for what I got out of it. Meaning, like any coach worth their salt is going to charge a fair rate, right, for their time. And I have no issue with that because I do it professionally. So obviously I want to get do right. So, but anyway, but what I mean is like one initial investment can really your whole life you could benefit from that potentially,
Yeah.
right? So
It's
it's
just
like
believing it.
yes. So that's what my recommendation is. If it's okay, could I talk about my YouTube or
Of
promote something?
course you can.
Okay, all right. Well, inspired by Bart and Pim, and there's other YouTubers as well, but actually Bart and Pim, I watched their live streams and all that, and it's fun. So I said, part of my confidence building thing, and maybe this came out of the no sweeteners thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, I said, I never used to be able to talk in front of a camera ever. I
Me
had a real,
neither.
right? So now that I've been building my confidence and all that, I said, hey, let me just start a YouTube channel almost as a way to challenge myself if I can just do it. This is the first thing. And the second one, I have a lot of people in my life who ask me questions a lot about diet, health, cholesterol, you name it, like a ton of questions, right? And I always have to repeat like the same stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
Or debunk a bunch of myths. So I said, I'm just going to make videos where I can like send somebody a link and then they could just go watch it instead of me having to spend hours with everybody. So that's how I started it. And I would say what I do is I just learn from a lot of great people. And then I think my channel is focused on summarizing a lot of information and trying to make it easy to understand. And that's what I typically do. So if you want to check out my channel, it's Keto Troy, Keto Troy. Right? So Keto Troy, and if you put that in YouTube, you'll find it. I only have like 40 subs at this moment, so whenever you're watching this, that's what I just started it. So it would be awesome to get some subscribers, particularly to get to 100, because I think when you get to 100, you get to customize your URL. So I'll be able to have like
Just a little tip is that the customized URLs aren't really working.
No? Okay. Well, maybe one day they will. So that
Maybe
would be
one
cool
day.
to at least get there. Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel. I have a website, cookingandketones.com. And my framework I talked about, which is a simple 4-principle framework that I basically live by now, is ruskframework.com. So, but if you just go to my YouTube channel, you'll get to all that stuff. So the last video I put out, and now probably by the time you're watching it, it won't be my last video, but the last video I put out is about like how limiting protein on a low carb diet or ketogenic diet is just nonsense. So that's a big one that I get all the time. Oh, I'm not supposed to eat protein. Like I get that constantly. So I said, no, I'm making a video. So far, I think that's my best video. So if you're going to start somewhere, I'd say check that one out.
And they're going to get better. I'll put
Yes, I
I'll
hope.
put your link in the description for this video.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
you don't have to remember.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for the praise, by the way. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
And thanks for coming on my channel. It's been great talking to you. And it's quite interesting because I think, in my head, I don't have a problem being on camera anymore, but I've always been shy of having my picture taken. I don't like being on camera. I don't like hearing my own voice, all that kind of thing. Even though I worked as a fitness instructor, I was running around with these on and shouting at people. Still don't like my voice.
Right.
And you
Right.
say, oh, I wasn't confident enough to be on camera. I'm like, oh, but this is a guy who's really good at speaking, and you just natural. I think all you Americans, you're just really good at talking, and it just rolls on. Whereas I'm obviously it's not my first language, but still
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of pausing and I have to think, and I don't feel like it's as fluent for me. And I'm thinking, why on earth do you have a problem being on camera? Why would you shy away from having a YouTube channel?
I don't know. It was a self-confidence thing, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's totally irrational because you're doing great. And there you go.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And you're doing great as well, because I know you just recently started your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. So thank you very much, and I will speak to you later.
all right. Thank you.